Elston, better known by his alter ego Billboard Chris, is a father of 2 girls, and he says children should not be indoctrinated to believe they were born in the wrong body. And his travels have now brought him to the UK. I'm delighted to say Chris Elston joins me now. Hi, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show. So, do you want to just, for those who are watching who aren't familiar with what you do, can you just describe what your approach to your activism is?
Sure. So, I'm sure I look utterly ridiculous, but I had no platform or means to reach people, so I had some signs made, which I wear. I'm a human billboard.
Yes.
And I know these aren't the most reputable people normally, but
it's a sandwich board thing.
It's a sandwich board.
It normally says things like the end is nigh and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're normally preaching about the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm having conversations about the harm coming to kids. So the sign on my front says children cannot consent to puberty blockers. And the sign on my back is one little playful. It normally is one that says the definition of a dad, which is a human male who protects his kids from gender ideology.
So what specifically is your view of gender ideology, and why do you think it is so dangerous for children?
So in a nutshell, my views are that there are 2 sexes, there are 0 genders, and there are infinite personalities.
Right.
Because that just captures all of us beautifully. There's no right way to be a boy or a girl. But this ideology teaches that just because a girl or a boy are gender nonconforming, if a girl wants to climb trees and play in the dirt and hates wearing dresses, well, guess what? She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
She's not a boy. She's not a trans boy. She's not anything other than what she is, which is a girl. And we need to abolish this entire ideology which teaches that stereotypes define who our kids are.
Right, so
there are 0 genders and there are infinite persons. Is one
your activism is.
Sure. So I'm sure I look utterly ridiculous, but I had no platform or means to reach people, so I had some signs made, which I wear. I'm a human billboard.
Yes.
And I know these aren't the most reputable people normally, but
it's a sandwich board thing.
It's a sandwich board.
It normally says things like the end is nigh and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're normally preaching about the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm having conversations about the harm coming to kids. So the sign on my front says children cannot consent to puberty blockers. And the sign on my back is one little playful. It normally is one that says the definition of a dad, which is a human male who protects his kids from gender ideology.
So what specifically is your view of gender ideology, and why do you think it is so dangerous for children?
So in a nutshell, my views are that there are 2 sexes, there are 0 genders, and there are infinite personalities.
Right.
Because that just captures all of us beautifully. There's no right way to be a boy or a girl. But this ideology teaches that just because a girl or a boy are gender nonconforming, if a girl wants to climb trees and play in the dirt and hates wearing dresses, well, guess what? She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
She's not a boy. She's not a trans boy. She's not anything other than what she is, which is a girl. And we need to abolish this entire ideology which teaches that stereotypes define who our kids are.
Right, so gendered stereotypes being used as the way to define what someone's gender identity is.
Right.
Where do you stand though when that gets to adulthood, when people are past the age of consent?
Look, adults can call themselves whatever they want. They can take on whatever label they want. And if they want to modify their body, that's their choice, I suppose. However, there is a caveat here. Doctors have still sworn an oath to first do no harm. And if you got some 18-year-old who comes into your gender clinic who's struggling with trauma and abuse, and there might have been sexual abuse, or maybe they have autism, or who knows what's going on in their life.
Yes.
We don't just start cutting off body parts right away. We should be treating these underlying mental health comorbidities first. And as a last case scenario, if body modification is required to alleviate this condition called gender dysphoria, well, that's a conversation for an adult to have. This should never be done with kids.
Of course, there are the problems that you're describing are often related to the idea of gender self-identification. So it doesn't even matter whether people have transitional surgery. We had a recent case in Scotland where a double rapist identified as female and was about to be housed in a female prison. What would you make of that?
Yeah, this is happening in Canada where I'm from. We have rapists housed with women in prison. And it's like we've all lost our minds. Have we forgotten that there are bad people in the world? There are mentally ill people in the world.
Yeah.
There's evil in the world. Of course, if you take away all safeguards for women and just say any man can identify as a woman, well, of course some men are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But in the effort to appear inclusive, these politicians pass these most ridiculous laws and they take away all safeguards for women and children.
And your particular focus is on the safeguarding of children, because to my mind there are three branches to this. There's the gay rights issue. You know, what happens when you change the definition of homosexuality to mean same-gender attraction. There's the feminism issue. You know, what happens when you take away women's only spaces. And then there's child safeguarding. And this is very much your focus, isn't it? And I suppose that's come from your experience as a father.
100%. I have two girls, and they're 11 and 13 years old now. I've been on this campaign for about 3 years, traveling all around North America. But my main job in life is to be a dad. And I've lived all my fun young years. All I care about is having a good world for them to go into. And I refuse to send my girls into a world that doesn't know what a woman is, and a world that's trying to change the sex of hundreds of thousands of children. We just can't tolerate this in a society.
There's also the issue, isn't there, that the majority of those children who are referred to pediatric gender clinics either have an autistic element to them or grow up to be gay.
That's right.
So it goes back to your point about gender non-conformity. Why are we stigmatizing that?
Right. At the Tavistock here in London, out of a sample of more than 1,000 children, 35% had moderate to severe autism. If you include the mild cases, that goes above 50%. And historically, all the studies into gender dysphoria going back decades show that more than 80% of the time, back when this just affected a handful of kids, but it was much more severe and prolonged and lasting, and it started at a young age. Even with those kids, more than 80% of the time, they simply outgrew it when they went through puberty, and a majority grew up to be gay.
Yeah.
So the cure in almost all cases for gender dysphoria is puberty itself, and now we block the cure.
So then what do you do when adult trans people say to you, well, I've always known. I've known since I was a small child that I was in the wrong body. I've spoken to people who say that. And there must be a degree of sympathy for people like that, surely.
Of course, we all want everyone to live the most fulfilling life possible. And I've talked to hundreds of these people. I talk to them every day. They come up to me, oftentimes yelling and threatening and sometimes assaulting me. But look, there's no such thing as being born in the wrong body. The way we should be framing this is there are people who have a mental health condition called gender dysphoria. I would prefer to call it sex dysphoria, because I just don't like the term gender at all. We used to use it as a synonym for sex.
Yes.
But it's been twisted to mean something entirely different. I prefer to call it sex dysphoria, because I just don't like the term gender at all. We used to use it as a synonym for sex.
Yes.
But it's been twisted to mean something entirely different. And all of these young people especially who are being taught gender studies in university, they've come to believe that our gender is something that we perform.
Yes.
Based on stereotypes. And that somehow you're not going to find true happiness unless you alter your body to perform these stereotypes more. This is like a cult that's infected all of society, and we just need to get the truth out there because people have been too afraid to talk about it.
It's very interesting talking to you now. You strike me as very mild-mannered, not particularly combative or antagonistic, and yet people have attacked you. I mean, I don't know if you've got any footage of this, but there have been people who have actually attacked you on the street for wearing this billboard.
Yes, I've had my arm broken. I've been mobbed by 200 university students. I've been punched probably 20 times. I've probably had 40 different assaults. Spat on countless times. Arrested twice after getting assaulted in front of police.
So does this not make you want to stop? You know, because it's unpleasant. You know, it's...
No, I'm a good old Canadian boy, and I just dig my heels in more.
Yep. People think us Canadians are all happy and polite all the time. But you forget, when you piss us off, you've really pissed us off. And we'll dig our heels in.
It's
So
easy
you
math,
won't ever
Guardian.
get us out.
You got the silver, Eververse has the goods.
Because you were recently in Ireland, I think last week, and it was interesting. I saw a clip of a police officer who came up to caution you or threaten you with arrest or something. What was going on there?
Just yesterday, I was on Grafton Street in Dublin, which is the busiest street in Dublin. And the police came up to me, and apparently someone at the Disney store, of all places, had reported that I'd been inside the store.
Well, you might be a customer.
Well, I wasn't inside the store. I had my signs on. I was outside on the street. I'd walked by the store.
Yes.
But I wasn't even hanging out in front of it or anything. And so this officer hadn't reviewed the CCTV footage or anything, so I told him, please go look at the footage.
You hadn't been in the store at all?
I hadn't been in the store at all. No, it's just a completely made-up fabrication. So we talked for about 6 or 7 minutes, and I knew right away this officer was a problem. And he ended up telling me that if I approached the Disney store, that I would be arrested. And he was citing some part of their criminal code where apparently if you cause offense to someone, that could mean you're violating their criminal code. And I said, well, what if I had a sign on that said, I think Ireland is beautiful? Some people could take offense to that. People from England, for example, might take offense to that. But
Bits of Ireland are quite rough, yeah. I mean,
But he goes, yeah, that's true. I said, well, would you arrest them? So this,
No,
is,
exactly.
this is
So
not
it's
policing, this is thought policing.
Yes.
And they have this most dystopian law of all about to come in, this new hate speech law, where even if you have something on your device that you haven't even shared with anyone, they can look at your devices and potentially arrest you.
yeah, well, Scotland has a similar thing where they can arrest you for things you say in the privacy of your own home. You know, and Canada certainly has some pretty draconian measures when it comes to this kind of thing. But that's a very interesting point where
Here in Canada, they literally took money out of people's banks just for being on a Freedom Con. Charged them. So yeah. Get well and ready. Rest of the world. Get well and ready. Wake up to this bullshit. If you go woke, you go broke.
say about causing offence, as you said, and as you said to the police officer, literally anything. I could find Disney offensive. Can you go and shut that down?
Right.
I do, as it happens.
Yeah, I'm offended that they called in a false report, so
Yes.
can we arrest them? And I said to him, I said, if someone's offended, whose fault is that? Whose problem is that? It's the problem of the person who's offended.
Yes.
Because being offended is a choice. People say 1,000 terrible, nasty things to me every day. I don't get offended. That's a choice. We need to be able to manage our own emotions and regulate how we behave. We don't just take offense to everything and, cry about every little thing that's going on in the world. But that's what these are the people who we're letting run society today and rewrite our laws and change the whole world. And now everyone's afraid to say, hey, we shouldn't even sterilize kids. Somehow this is controversial.
And the necessity for what you do is clearly that the conversation hasn't been allowed to occur.
Right.
Precisely because people are saying, your words are violence, your words erase my existence. Where do you think this comes from, this hyperbolic, alarmist approach to conversation?
Well, this is really all done by activists who don't want us to have a conversation because they know as soon as we have a rational, fact-based conversation about this, their whole ideology falls to pieces. So when I talk to these people on the street all the time, I ask them questions. I'm not there to... You can't change the mind of an angry person on the street. That's not going to happen. But I'll say things that they agree with because that throws them for a loop and they don't know what to do. Because I'll say, look, if a girl's gender nonconforming, beautiful. What's wrong with that? And they get so lost because they think I'm supposed to be some bigot.
Yes.
So now I've created this moment of cognitive dissonance where they have these two competing ideas going on in their head, and they're going to have to go home and figure it out. But I'll ask them questions like Matt Walsh did in What is a Woman? In that fabulous documentary, he didn't offer his opinion once. He just asked questions of the so-called world-leading experts on women and gender.
Yes.
And they couldn't even tell him what a woman is.
I do find that approach of
How can I help?
being gentle and amenable and not taking an antagonistic approach exposes them all the more. And we've seen that with the Posey Parker Let Women Speak events where they've ended up punching women in the face.
Yeah, and speaking of Posey Parker, she was actually the inspiration for how I got started, because the first thing I did was follow her lead. She had put up a sign at the Edinburgh train station that said, I love J.K. Rowling. I heart J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
And it got taken down after one day because some people on Twitter complained. And I said, because the secondary part of my campaign is freedom of speech, because we should be able to talk about issues, especially issues affecting our children's health for the rest of their lives. And I got tired of people getting fired and all that, so I put up a huge billboard in Vancouver that said the same thing. It got taken down after one day because a Vancouver politician said it was hate speech.
What, to love J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, it had a big red heart on it.
Yeah.
And they took it down, and it got paint bombed overnight. And so then I put up about 30 or 40 more throughout the U.S., and then I ran out of money, and I had no way to reach people, so I quit my job. I used to have a real job as a financial guy, but I quit everything, and I became a human sandwich board, just like I told my mom I would do when I was growing up.
Well, I think it's a very effective approach that you're taking. Just quickly before you go, how can people find out more about you?
BillboardChris.com, and I do all my campaigning on Twitter at BillboardChris, Instagram as well.
Don't waste this. I need you alive, brother. Be careful. You got somewhere to be. How about again? Let's get this done.
Good evening. We have come here tonight after watching the grand jury testimony of that police officer who did actually watch Sabine destroy evidence of the sexual abuse in our schools, like other people have mentioned. Patty was also here during that period of time in the massive cover-ups. So like the others, we all recommend the resignation. We think that there should be accountability for these crimes. You know, none of the administrators that were involved in these cover-ups lost their degrees or their jobs. So I find that pretty unusual. It seems like someone should be held accountable for it. The rest of you, I feel you all need to get your act together. Instead of focusing on ice cream socials and sunsets, we really want to see some good work being done on how to keep our kids safe. The documentary concluded that RUSD had not learned their lesson. And as such, as evidenced by, I've had many parents and teachers privately message me about this with their own ongoing stories. Why do the kids at RHS football call RHS football coach Glass a pervert? Why are the students saying he was caught with child porn on his computer and that he grabbed a female student's ass? They say he made only the girls turn around during squats.
Candy, I'm sorry, but the language.
Can you stop the clock if you're going to interrupt me?
I'm sorry. The language is all.
Okay.
Sorry, I understand, but the language.
Okay, thank you. They say he made only the girls turn around during squats to stare at them from behind. Now, I don't know why he's on leave or why he mysteriously was removed from their website, but I do know that the school has still not informed the parents of his departure. This flyer was plastered all around the school, the one I gave to you guys. And the flyer was posted all around the high school, and yet the parents still remain in the dark. And it says, free Coach Glass. He didn't mean to touch the girls' ASS, okay? And the janitors had to take that down at Redlands High School. You work for us, yet you ignore the issues we all request you address. 8 of us parents walked down to the district office and politely requested to speak with the superintendent. What did you do? You immediately called the Redlands PD, the sheriff, San Bernardino County Sheriff, the school safety officer. How dare you waste 3 valuable resources on a group of pleasant, law-abiding parents who pose absolutely no threat to you, and we never have. We have questions and waited nearly an hour for everybody to come speak with us. You all ran and hid like cockroaches. What brings me to mind the Rev Principal Clary, who's now apparently vanished into thin air. Who's the new principal on campus now? Who is she? What's her name? Why haven't we been notified? You'll spam the hell out of us for digital storytelling, but when it comes to important issues, you're silent. Your current measures are worthless as evidenced by the fact that they're not working. Everyone here can all agree on one thing, that we all want the best for our kids. And if your staff doesn't so much as lay a hand on one of my girls, I promise you, as God is my witness, it will not end well.
Thank you.
They interrupted her time, and then they tried to stop her once the time ran out, even though they kept the clock running. You see what they're doing, folks? Silencing us, telling the truth. Enough is enough.
how many QR codes. I don't care how many QR codes you bloody have. It's unenforceable. There's too many people. Take a third, say 500 million said we're not having it in China. Over, gone, kaput, finished. How many would it take of the 8 billion to make this cult's imposition unenforceable? I mean, this cult, compared with the global population, is so small in number in terms of people in full knowledge of what they're doing and what the plan is, that they have to recruit from the target population for its government administrators and its law enforcement. So law enforcement, like the journalists I mentioned earlier, excuse for journalists, they're getting up every morning. Are you listening? Police officers and military around the world, they're getting up every morning, seeing their children off to school, going to work, enforcing on the target population which they come from, what this small group at the center of the cult wants them to do and wants them to impose. And then they go home at the end of the day and see their children. The very children and grandchildren that their actions every day, see COVID lockdown, see what's happening in China now, is imposing, in terms of fascism for the rest of their life, on their own children and grandchildren. And the government administrators in the local councils and the governments that are administering and forcing upon the population, or trying to, what ultimately the cult is dictating via governments. And they have kids and grandkids, and they are working every day to ensure that their kids and grandkids are going to live the rest of their lives in a level of technologically generated AI-imposed fascism that is beyond anything the Nazis could even think of. And so, if you break it down, you take away the journalists that are perceptually programming the people, because they're perceptually programmed themselves. You take away, who are overwhelmingly from the target population. You take away the law enforcement, which are from the target population. You take away the government administrators that are overwhelmingly from the target population. How many of these buggers is left? And yet their agenda is being imposed on billions. Why? Because the bloody billions are letting it happen. And you know, I've said this, Brian, many times. This cult don't worry me, because ultimately it has no power. The power it accrues is the power it gets from the people in the form of acquiescence. In the form of belief in its power, the population hand over their power to it, which is the only power it ever has. Acquiescence, that's the power. So, for that reason, the cult worries me less than the population. Because, you know, there's two types of people that have two mentalities that have created and allowed to manifest every tyranny in history. I don't care if it's Chinese communism or whether it's Nazi fascism, whatever. One group are the unquestioning people who take what they're told by authority and unquestioningly believe it, and then act upon what they have unquestionably believed. They are a piece of cake, because if authority says it, they believe it and they do it. The equivalent is, it was on the BBC, it must be true. It probably wasn't then. And then you have this other group that doesn't want to acquiesce like the first group does without question, but it's terrified of not acquiescing because it says, what are the consequences for me of not doing what I'm told? Those two mentalities have been responsible for every tyranny in history, because fascism is never brought in by fascists. There's never enough of them. Fascism comes in by the acquiescence of the people to fascism, either through doing what they're told without question or doing what they're told because they fear not doing so, which leaves group 3, which has ended every tyranny in history. And that's the group that can see it. They can see they're being lied to. They can see why they're being lied to and what the end game is, and they will not cooperate with it.
Yeah. I'll take your welcomes and thank yous anytime now. Because I'll never bend a knee. Never. You want me to bend a knee, lick your boots? Well, guess what? I'm gonna stand on both feet and make you lick my boots to shine and kiss my ring all the time. So make your choices.
They say, I would rather die than accept this imposition on my life. And they are the people, the mentality, that are going to end this tyranny. If anyone is going to end it, the only people who are going to end it are those people with that mentality.
Radial mast, it's activating. I'll buy you some time, Lightbearer.
Be careful, Rohan. Even you can only deter it for so long. There must be a way to destroy it.
Guardian, as long as I can hold the line, the radial mast can't create a link. Find a way to destroy it. Hurry! Guardian, as long as I can hold the line, the radial mast can't create the link. Find a way to destroy it! Hurry!
Oh, it's time to dish the pain.
Guardian, as long as I can hold the line, the radial mass can't create a link. Find a way to destroy it. Hurry! Guardian, as long as I can hold the line, the radial mass can't create the link. Find a way to destroy it. Hurry! as I can hold the line. The radio mast can't create the link. Find a way to destroy it. Hurry! as I can hold the line. The radio mass can't create the link. Find a way to destroy it. Hurry!
cannot be destroyed with conventional weapons. But like before, perhaps they didn't account for Strand.
Need Strand to overcome the force field.
Give me some time to expose its weak point. When I give you the signal, use your Strand. Now's the time! Lightbearer! Destroy it now!
We can't.
Then I have no choice. Nimbus, see you on the other side. Rohan, what are you doing?
Rohan.
He chose a Cloud Strider's end. Hey, Guardian, can you please pick up his core? I'll need it.
Okay, Nimbus.
There was no time left, I think.
Systems are late, with 80% of defenses now operational. I'm full of fury, she's got an army, and you got magic green strings. Let's crush this Callus guy.
We aren't ready for Callus. We don't even understand this erratic power at a foundational level.
It's time we figure it out. Keitel, we'll need your troops. Nimbus, charge up as many of the remaining turrets as you can, while Osiris helps me to untangle this strand.
Voice always gives me goosebumps.
Hello, Master
When we think about controlling something powerful, it's easy to assume it takes strength. Determination. A force of will. But what I've learned is that we cannot control every facet of nature. Instead of tightening our grip, we must open our palms, accepting the ebb and the flow. Letting go in the face of grief in all its shapes. Through failure, through loss, we can overcome the impossible.
We stand at a precipice, both in our conflict with Callus and in our training with Strand.
But something is still missing.
And we will find it together. Perhaps inspiration will strike where we least expect it. Follow wherever Strand leads you. Let's experiment.
Shadow Legion ahead.
No doubt preparing for a siege. We must take this time to prepare as well. The battle will be ours soon, but now is not the time. We have never struggled harder against a greater evil, and yet we know now what Nimbus taught us. All products of the mind are conjoined in the darkness. Our obstacles and our goals are all contained within. In fact, they are the same. Same as us, the same as our enemy. What if, in trying to master this power, in trying to take control of this conflict, we've been swimming against the river's current?
It would certainly explain the exhaustion.
Question remains. How do you flow with the river?
Hit a target.
There, more Strand.
Yes, and Vex nearby. A fine time to put our theories into practice. Not easily fooled by appearances, Guardian. Impressive that you recognize the true goal beneath the noise. Brute force yields little progress, while careful execution paves a path towards a greater power.
Rohan would have said, headlong and empty-handed.
Perhaps our towering friend understood more about this power than even he knew. Think on it. When did you start seeing true success with Strand?
When we helped the Neo Muni by rebooting the power station. What did that have to do with Strand?
Our perspective changed, as did our approach to fighting our battle. We took a step back, saw the broader whole, and moved in keeping with it.
So what? We flow with the river by planning better?
By seeing our obstacles as part of the bigger picture, and using the bigger picture to overcome them. Excellent! That was excellent!
We're really onto something here, huh? What changed?
To properly observe phenomena of the light, one needs the right instruments.
And for darkness?
One needs the right perspective. I think we've found it. Seek out more Strand, and see what this new perspective offers.
Even after all that, it seems the Guardian's energy is still stable. Is it possible the perspective shift was all we were missing?
Do not underestimate this moment. This is the product of humbling training, many failures, and your determination. But you've not mastered this power until you can bring these lessons to bear under duress.
I think I know where this is going.
I have a challenge for you. The VexNet contains many pockets used for testing new subroutines. There is one very near you. Perfect to discover what you can really do with this power.
Damn. What do you mean wrong error?
got him. Remember.
Flow with the river.
Well, what are you waiting for? Is unmatched. Now, show your fighting prowess.
Been away.
Down. This is it, Guardian. Remember.
Flow the river.
Well, what are you waiting for? Is unmatched. Now, show your fighting prowess. This is it, Guardian. Remember.
Flow the river.
Well, what are you waiting for? Flexibility is unmatched. Now, show your fighting prowess. it, Guardian. Remember,
Flow with the river.
well, what are you waiting for? Is unmatched. Now, show your fighting prowess. Guardian. Remember,
flow with the river.
Well, what are you waiting for? This is it, Guardian. Remember.
Blow at the river.
Well, what are you waiting for? Good. Good. Embrace where the current takes you.